For decades, it was the ultimate mystery. 9 experienced hikers vanished, leaving behind a chilling enigma: mangled bodies, inexplicable injuries, a tent ripped open from the inside, all under the gaze of Kolotsiako, Dead Mountain. Every theory crumbled: UFOs, Yetis, conspiracies, all myths. But what if the true horror was something far more mundane, yet infinitely more powerful? What if the mountain itself, in its silent mockery, held the key? New groundbreaking science reveals something astonishing: how a specific, misunderstood type of avalanche, a slab avalanche, could explain every chilling detail of Dyatlov Pass. Did we finally solve it? The truth is far more terrifying than any conspiracy. The Dyatlov Pass incident. Even the name whispers dread. February 2nd, 1959. 9 seasoned trekkers, led by Igor Dyatlov, established camp high on Kolotsiako. These weren't amateurs. They were hardened Soviet mountaineers, prepared for the brutal Ural winter. Their objective: conquer Rotorten. But they never returned. If you stay until the end, you will understand how a scientific breakthrough revealed the true horrifying mechanism behind their demise, and why it took over 60 years to uncover. Weeks later, search parties found their tent, inexplicably cut open from the asterisk inside asterisk, empty, abandoned. Most of their gear, food, even their warm clothing, left behind. The first 2 bodies, Yuri Krivonishenko and Yuri Doroshenko, were found by a cedar tree, nearly a mile downhill, barefoot, in their underwear, near a crude, failed fire. 3 more bodies, Dyatlov, Zinaida Kolmogorova, Rustem Slobodin, were discovered between the tree and the tent, seemingly crawling back, succumbing to hypothermia. Then, the final 4, found months later, buried under deep snow in a ravine, some 75 meters from the cedar. Nikolai Thibault-Bragnos had a fractured skull. Lyudmila Dubinina and Semyon Zolotaryov suffered devastating chest and head trauma, akin to a high-speed car crash. Dubinina's tongue, eyes, and part of her face were missing. Alexander Kolovatov had strange injuries too, all dressed in each other's clothes, some with traces of radiation. What force could inflict such horror, strip them of their will to survive, and drive them into the unforgiving night? What unspeakable terror unfolded on that mountain? Decades have passed, yet the core questions remain, echoing in the icy winds of Kolotsiako. Why cut the tent from asterisks inside asterisks? Why abandon their sanctuary, their only hope against the brutal -30 degrees Celsius night, leaving behind supplies, even their boots? What could compel 9 experienced mountaineers to flee so desperately, so chaotically, into the darkness? The accepted wisdom was wrong, and the implications, they were terrifying. The injuries, the most perplexing riddle. How do you explain the car crash trauma, the fractured skulls, the crushed chests, found on bodies miles from any vehicle? What compelling natural force, as the initial Soviet investigation vaguely concluded, could be responsible for such specific, devastating wounds? Was it human, animal, something else? The very vagueness of the official report fueled the inferno of speculation. Whispers of secret military tests, paranormal encounters, even interdimensional portals became ingrained in the Dyatlov legend. Each theory, wilder than the last, desperately tried to fill the void of definitive answers. Each added a new layer to the enigma: the missing eyes and tongue, the radiation, the strange orange tan on some bodies. Every detail, a new thread pulling us deeper into a labyrinth of unanswered questions. The mountain held its secrets tight, but what if, for decades, we were simply asking the wrong questions? What if the answers were hidden in plain sight, veiled by our own assumptions? Then, a seismic shift. For 60 years, the case lay dormant, a cold file gathering dust in a forgotten archive. But in 2019, Russia's Prosecutor General's office announced the unimaginable: the Dyatlov Pass incident was being reopened. Not a reinvestigation, into asterisks who asterisks or asterisks what asterisks caused it, but a focused inquiry into the asterisks natural causes asterisks of the tragedy. A narrow scope, yes, but a crack in the wall of silence. The world watched, skeptical, as a team of experts, including representatives from the Prosecutor General's office and the Russian Ministry of Emergency Situations, returned to Kholat-Syakhl. They spent months recreating conditions, analyzing topography, sifting through every shred of old evidence. The initial public reaction was a mix of hope and deep cynicism. Would this be another whitewash, another attempt to bury the truth under a convenient official narrative? The ghosts of past cover-ups loomed large. Then, in July 2020, the conclusion arrived. A press conference, official statements, the verdict, an avalanche was most likely the cause. The words hung in the air, echoing the vague, compelling natural force from 1959. Yet, this time, there was a difference. They provided asterisk reasons. Asterisks they presented as asterisk mechanism. Asterisks. The initial skepticism, however, was immense. An avalanche? After all these decades of elaborate theories? It felt too simple, too neat, too convenient. But what if, beneath that initial disbelief, lay the very key to unlocking the past's darkest secrets? What if this seemingly mundane explanation was in fact the most terrifying one of all? A whisper, then a roar. The Avalanche Theory. For decades, it was a ghost story, a convenient dismissal. But why? Why the immediate visceral outrage? Impossible, screamed the old guard, because for 60 years, the very idea defied every fiber of common sense, every hardened instinct of those who knew the mountains. Imagine a seasoned mountaineer, picturing a gentle slope, barely a hill, and being told asterisks, that asterisks was the killer. Their minds, honed by unforgiving peaks, rejected it. It felt like an insult, a betrayal of their understanding of nature's raw power. But what if their understanding was incomplete? What if the truth was far more insidious, far more subtle than a thunderous obvious slide? What if the mountain had a secret, one it kept for decades, waiting to be unearthed? Kholat-Syakhl, the dead mountain, wasn't a typical avalanche run. Its slope angle was notoriously gentle, barely 10-15 degrees in the area where the tent was pitched. Real avalanches, the kind that bury people, require a much steeper incline, usually 30 degrees or more. This wasn't the Alps. This wasn't the Himalayas. This was a relatively mild, rounded flank of a mountain, not a sheer face. How could a deadly avalanche form there? Then, the tent's location, nestled into the slope, seemingly sheltered, not exposed on a ridge, not at the base of a perilous couloir. It was a seemingly safe spot, and the most damning piece of evidence for skeptics. The tent was cut from asterisks, inside asterisks. If an avalanche buried them, wouldn't they be trying to dig asterisks out asterisks? Why cut their way into the frigid night, into the unknown? The official conclusion felt like a slap in the face, a convenient dismissal of the deep, unsettling mysteries, a refusal to acknowledge the true horror. But what if this impossible avalanche was possible after all? What if the very reasons for skepticism were precisely what made this tragedy so unique, so utterly devastating? A new voice emerged, not from the Russian prosecutor's office, not from armchair detectives or grizzled mountaineers. This was different, cautious, academic, dispassionate, a call to pure science. In 2021, two institutions stepped forward, their names synonymous with rigorous research and objective truth: EPFL and ETH Zurich, the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology Lausanne, the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology Zurich. Elite engineering universities, their laboratories buzzing with the pursuit of fundamental principles. Their goal? Not to confirm a theory, not to appease public opinion, but to apply the cold, hard logic of physics to a 60-year-old enigma, to strip away the myths, the sensationalism, the decades of human speculation, and confront the raw data, These weren't thrill seekers, they were scientists. Their tools, computational modeling, material science, and an unparalleled understanding of snow mechanics. Their motivation, pure, unadulterated curiosity. Could an avalanche, against all conventional wisdom, truly be the culprit? And if so, how? What specific, rare confluence of factors could have turned a gentle slope into a death trap? They began with the most fundamental question, the one that broke every rule of avalanche prediction. How does a slab of snow on a barely inclined surface detach and slide with such destructive force? The answer, they believed, lay hidden in plain sight, encoded in the very terrain of Ciacol. But before we plunge into their groundbreaking analysis, we must first understand the true nature of the beast. What is an avalanche? Most people picture a thunderous wave of powder, a chaotic tumble down a steep mountainside, and often that's precisely what it is. A powder, avalanche, light and fast, a visible cloud of white fury, typically triggered by new unstable snow. Then there's the wet avalanche, slower, heavier, like thick mud, often occurring in spring, when snowmelt lubricates the layers beneath. These are common, recognizable, but there's a third type, a silent killer, a deceptive force that defies intuition, especially on seemingly gentle slopes. This is the slab, avalanche, Imagine a plate, a massive cohesive plate of snow, strong enough to walk on, often denser and wind-packed. This slab rests precariously on a weaker, less stable layer beneath it, perhaps a layer of hoarfrost or faceted snow crystals, like tiny ball bearings. It can remain stable for days, weeks even, but when the right stress is applied, a critical threshold breached, that entire slab can fracture, not a chaotic tumble, but a sudden catastrophic detachment. The fracture line can propagate at incredible speeds, kilometers per second, before the entire slab begins to slide as one unified crushing mass. This isn't just loose snow, this is a solid block, capable of immense destructive power. The Dyatlov Pass, we were told, was too shallow for an avalanche. But what if it wasn't a powder avalanche they faced? What if it was a slab? The danger of a slab avalanche lies precisely in its structural integrity. Think of a Jenga tower. Each block represents a layer of snow. Most avalanches are like pulling out a few top blocks, a small cascade. A slab avalanche is different. It's like the entire top section, of the Jenga tower, held together by invisible forces, resting on one single, fragile, compromised block at its base. That weak block, it could be a layer of sugary granular snow, or a delicate film of meltwater that refroze, creating a frictionless plane. This slab, often formed by persistent winds, can be incredibly dense, weighing hundreds, even thousands of pounds per cubic meter. It moves not as individual flakes, but as a single, devastating unit. When that weak layer fails, the slab doesn't just slide, it releases asterisks. Imagine the ground beneath you suddenly giving way, not crumbling, but shearing clean off. The force is immense. It can be triggered not just by new snowfall, but by temperature changes, wind shifts, or even the subtle weight of a single person crossing it. And critically, unlike a powder avalanche, a slab avalanche can release on slopes far less steep than traditionally thought dangerous. This is where the narrative around Dyatlov Pass begins to fracture, just like a hidden weak layer. The accepted wisdom was wrong, and the implications, they were terrifying. The gentle slope argument. It was the impenetrable fortress of skepticism, the unyielding bedrock. For years it stood unchallenged. Ciacol's eastern face, where the tent lay ripped, averaged a mere 10-15 degrees. A trifle, they said, too gentle for death. But this was a masterful deception, a red herring, cunningly laid, because the average slope, the broad sweeping view, means nothing, not for a slab avalanche. The killer detail lurks in the micro-terrain, a small insidious convex roll, a subtle, almost imperceptible bulge in the Earth's skin. It's not about the whole mountain, it's about that one tiny, deadly spot, that precise point where snow accumulates, compacts, and waits, a silent predator, hidden in plain sight. Do you truly believe the mountain reveals all its secrets at a glance? Think of a sand dune. Its overall incline might be mild, but tiny, wind-sculpted cornices can still break off. At Dyatlov Pass, relentless katabatic winds, accelerating down the mountain, acted as nature's snowpacker. They scoured snow from the ridge and deposited it directly onto that deceptive, localized roll, layer upon layer, compressed, densified. This created a highly cohesive snow slab, perched precariously on a weaker, pre-existing snowpack. The slope might have been shallow, but the asterisk loading was extreme. Such wind-loaded slabs, even on slopes as low as 10-15 degrees, are notorious for producing catastrophic releases. The very wind that created the slab would also mask its danger, smoothing its surface, making it look stable. But beneath that innocent veneer, a massive, fragile structure waited, a ticking time bomb. The question wasn't asterisk, if asterisk, it would fail, but asterisk when asterisk, and what would trigger it? The wind, the invisible architect of disaster. It wasn't merely a cold nuisance, it was a sculptor, a transporter, a weaponizer of snow. Katabatic winds, those dense cold air currents gravity-fed down mountain slopes, are relentless. On Kolatsyakal, they stripped snow from the windward side, leaving it bare and scoured. But where did that snow go? It was carried, relentlessly, to the leeward side, the very eastern